Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Buenas tardes, señoras y señores. My name is Sangun Kim, and I'll be your host for today's event. I'd like to welcome all of you to ICAO's 13th Air Navigation Conference. This is SkyTalks, Day 6, Session number 26. We are coming to you live, so I'm going to remind all of you to please put your cell phones on vibrating mode and to let the presenter speak, and then please go to the back to the mic and ask questions after the presentation. Now, in today's theme of safety, if you think about it, all of us have had the opportunity to fly either locally or internationally, whether it be for personal or business. But I'm quite surprised that people, every time we land, that you don't have people that explode into cheer, right? In my case, that's only happened once. In 2004, I had a flight from Montreal to Seoul, and on the second leg, coming out of Toronto, right upon departure, one of the engines caught fire. And it wasn't like in the movies where people get on the phones and you see someone like Nick Cage, right, getting on the phone and saying, "Oh, baby, I love you, baby." It's not the case at all. People were just dead silent, and people were praying. And it's not until that the plane arrived safely, landed safely in a small airport, that people actually started to cheer and clap and hug and kiss. And I was just freaked out by that day, and I'll never forget. But if you think about it, if we take a plane, it leaves on time and it arrives on time, a lot of things have to go right before the flight, during the flight, and once the flight lands. Now, in that aspect, our next presenter is going to talk a little bit more about SIMS, which is the Safety Information Monitoring System. I'd ask you to please welcome Ruviana Zimmerman, Associate Analyst Officer at ICAO's Air Navigation Bureau. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the introduction. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. So before starting with my presentation, I would like to know who of you in this room do have any knowledge of SIMS. And here I'm not referring to SIMS video game, but the Safety Information Monitoring System. Raise your hand if you do. Well, I see a few hands. Thank you for the information. So those that do not know about SIMS, well, you are at the right presentation, because now you will learn more about SIMS. And those who already knows about SIMS, well, there's always room to learn more. So here I have two charts. The first one is of the 2018 version of the safety report. And here you can see the distribution of accidents. You can see the number of accidents, the number of fatalities, and accident rate over a given period of time. You can as well see that, for example, in 2017, there was less fatalities. On the other charts, we can see the high-risk categories, which are the control, flight into terrain, loss of control in flight, and runway safety. The distribution here is that there are more accidents that happen for the control, flight into terrain, where there were fatalities. Whereas for the runway safety, we have accidents where there was aircraft damage. This information, and we are able to analyze this because we have data. The fact that we have data make it possible to analyze information and eventually work towards improving safety. I'm sure everyone have known or heard about you can't manage what you can't measure. And if you can't measure it, how can you improve it? It counts for safety as well. How can we manage safety if we don't have data to measure it? And how, if we cannot measure it, how are we intending to improve it? So we are using here, the example that I use here is of accident data. But do we want to continue to use accident data to improve safety? Do we want to continue to use the reactive approach towards safety improvement? In the domain of using and going to a more proactive approach, we have developed the ICAO SIMS, which stands for Safety Information Monitoring System. In theory, SIMS is an ICAO web-based information system comprised of indicators, comprised of applications which generate indicators. These indicators are in support for the implementation of state safety programs and SMS, which is the safety management system. One of the goals of SIMS is to implement the recommendations made by the second high-level safety conference. This high-level safety conference made a recommendation to ICAO to implement or actually facilitate the development of a phased approach for a global framework towards the exchange of safety information to the interest of safety. Another goal of SIMS is to increase the cooperation among states and industry in order to support the collection, analysis, and sharing of data for the monitoring of safety performance within their own state. Besides that, we want to encourage and support states to use data more effectively in order to make decisions. You collect data, you are provided data, and you generate data on a frequent basis. However, not all the time you have the capacity or capability to use this data effectively or process this data effectively for decision making. So within the concept and purpose of SIMS, we want to connect states and the service providers to a single platform. So we're connecting states and service providers to SIMS so they can identify, monitor, and share safety information to improve aviation safety from a national perspective to a global level. Connect data on SIMS. So why would you, as a state, connect your data to SIMS? First, it's free of charge. It's a web-based platform that you can access 24/7 from everywhere, whenever you want to, as long as you have internet. Well, this is true. But besides that, the added value of SIMS is that we aggregate data, we integrate and visualize your data. The data aggregation is where we use multiple data sources. An example is the use of ADS-B data. We use as well, so the aggregation of this data to enhance data quality and to identify emerging safety issues. Data aggregation is an important component for data integration, where we use raw and unstructured data and convert this into meaningful and valuable information, which can be used for your monitoring of safety. Besides converting it into information that you have now the knowledge, in order to see this and monitor, we use visualization mechanism. So you can interpret the data and recognize trends. An example would be the use of dashboards. Here I'm using an example of ADS-B ground data that, as said, is one of our data sources. The ADS-B ground data here is used for 2 different airports, and the data that we are using here is for the monitoring of ground movement. You can, with this data, monitor ground movement. You can identify potential risks. You can use this information for checking the capacity of your airport, for example. And this is almost real-time data. The fact that we are able to use this data almost in real time is because this data is high in volume, it's volatile, and the variety of the data makes it almost impossible for any conventional laptop or computer to process this data. For the recording of this data, for example, it takes us within 5 minutes about 5 megabytes. So if you do your math, you can see that within an hour and within a day, how much of memory you have consumed. However, if you do not have the infrastructure in place, there's no need to invest in such an infrastructure if SIMS offers this option, because we have ADS-B data. So with the use of, for example, the ADS-B data, you're able to identify hazards, and we are using the proactive approach, so identify hazards on a proactive way, and this allows you to prioritize any areas of identified safety concerns, or eventually identify emerging issues. The identification of performance indicators is as well something that you can find on SIMS. We use indicators. You can use current available indicators as we have in the GANP and the GASP. However, you can indicate as well your own indicators. This is for the tracking and monitoring of your implementation of your SSP, or for the air navigation capacity and efficiency. Besides that, the setting of target and achieving set targets of the GASP and the GANP is, as I said, part of the identification and using of indicators on SIMS. Here I'm showing a few indicators that we have on SIMS for the approach and airspace applications that we have. An example here is horizontal flight efficiency, where we look at the local and network efficiency. We use a TCAS array, large high deviation, both for the risk on mid-air collision. We use the CDO, which is for the continuous descent operation, and missed approaches is as well one of the indicators that we use. We have more indicators, but I'm just showing an example right now of those that we have for airspace and approach. A good thing about SIMS is that these indicators are updated on a daily, weekly, or monthly frequency. States who are providing data or connecting their data to SIMS as well are able to monitor their indicators on a daily, weekly, and monthly frequency. Here I'm showing one of the indicators, how we visualize the indicator on SIMS. You can see here the indicator of CDO, which is the continuous descent operations. Here you can as well monitor the trend. You can see, like for example, the year to date, how the trend was for the CDO within your state. And for the case of CDO, you would like to have a higher CDO. The description and all information containing that contains in the indicators, this information is on the ICAO indicator catalog, which is available on the ICAO website. So aside from connecting your data to SIMS and be able to convert the data to information for indicators, you're able now to as well monitor your safety performance, because you have the intelligence, you have the knowledge of the information. However, it's not about only monitoring, but you can as well manage your risk. You manage your safety better, and you can conduct your safety data analysis. When you have the information, an important part is whether you take action or not. Here I'm showing an example of missed approach. There has been an abnormal increase in this missed approach between the period as shown as your screen. What do you do with this information? You have this information. Do you just monitor, continue to monitor it, or do you take any action? This information, as you can see, it came back to normal. However, during the period that you were checking this and monitor this, it's important to know what to do next. So based on the information that you have now, you can make a decision. And that's where SIMS comes into play as well, is for helping you to make data-driven decisions. You can keep this information in silo for the improvement of safety within your own state. However, you can as well use the SIMS to share data on the secure platform, and this is sharing it with participating states. The sharing of the data is not so just sharing it without any security around it. We signed an MOU. Each participating state signs an MOU so that their data and for the protection of their data and any confidentiality. Once you share your data on SIMS, whether you opt for this option to share your data on SIMS with other participants, you can work together with the aviation sector to improve safety at national, regional, and global level. Based on this, you can obtain insights for improvement, and you can as well use this information eventually for benchmarking and contributing not only to the improvement of your own safety, but the improvement of safety at a much broader level, which can be the regional and at global level. However, we will be able to do this with the participation of states in SIMS. So, as I explained, SIMS is about connecting data to build safety intelligence, where we connect states and service providers on a single platform so that together they can work to identify, monitor, and share safety information. SIMS is a work in progress. We have launched a soft launch. We have done a soft launch of SIMS. However, we continue to gradually, and as it is a phased approach states, and states are as well approaching us to join this project. So based on this as well, and based on the benefits of SIMS for each state, and seeing the implementation of SSP as a requirement, we encourage states to sign and join the SIMS. So just a quick fact sheet here about SIMS. Currently, as I said, SIMS has already it's already active, and we have on the ICAO secured platform 6 applications of SIMS, and 5 of these applications are using key indicators, whereas we have the applications of ramp inspections and occurrences, which required input of states with their own data. As I said, there is the soft launch of SIMS, so we have already about 14 ICAO member states who have officially indicated their interest in participation to participate in SIMS and are participating in SIMS. Together with them, we have 30 service providers, which include ANSPs, air operators, ground handlers, etc. We have over 100 users from these ICAO member states, because we are not limiting a state to the amount of user. However, the state needs to pre-approve the users that will have access to SIMs. Currently, we are monitoring 27 airspaces, and we look forward to have more airspaces added. And this is monitoring them based on the use of ADS-B data. We have as well over 17 airports, and these airports are as well based on USB data, ADS-B data. So this is actually my presentation about the SIMs. May you want to join the SIMs if you have not yet? Please send an email to sims@icao.nt with your request. We are working with the regional offices, and therefore any process for joining SIMs is through the regional offices. So without further ado, if you have any questions, I'm gladly to answer those. Otherwise, you can send your email as well, and we will answer your questions. Thank you for your attention, and once again, thank you for joining me today.